everybody, welcome into the Ben Maynard program. Thanks for being here. Before we get rolling, a little housekeeping to take care of. As a reminder, this program is available on multiple podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Or simply do a search the Ben Maynard program, and it'll come up with several options. Choose your option. I recommend Buzzsprout. If you cannot resist this right here, all of this, then watch the show on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, I ask that you please subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and leave a comment. I love comments. I'm not getting enough of them. Last but not least, follow me on Instagram, simply Ben Maynard Program. So there are plenty of ways to take in this show for your dancing and listening pleasure. And with that, I'll recap the last episode. That was my rant on farewell tours. Primarily, what got me going was the fact that a year ago, Foreigner announced a farewell tour. They went out on that tour. They completed that tour. And then turned around, and a few days ago, they announced a summer tour next year with co-headliners Styx and special guest John Waite. And I was a little irritated at that because, and you have to watch the episode, but I was a little irritated by it because they announced farewell, they said goodbye, and then they're coming right back this next summer. So check it out. It's pretty good. I'm a little pissed, but I guess I'll get over it. I'm not sure. So do you guys have an opinion on this one way or another when bands, they announce a farewell and they go out on their tour and then it seems like farewell really isn't farewell?
I don't care. It's just the same thing.
Okay, well, I'll get into that in a moment.
Well, so I think Kiss did that a couple of times, and that was okay. It doesn't bother me because I think they're just kind of testing the waters. Hey, we're going to do farewell. If we do good, we'll go back and we'll do another tour. I mean, they got to make money, right? They got to live. So if people are going to go out and buy tickets, no problem. I have no problem with the American way, man.
Okay, all right. So everybody, let me do my job, and let me now introduce these two gentlemen, okay? These are my brothers. Sitting here in studio with me is my brother Jim, our brother Jim. This is the oldest one. Well, not the oldest, but this is our older brother Jim. And then at home in Colorado is our younger brother Chuck. So thanks, guys, for doing this. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, excited.
All right. Well, we'll finish. We have to finish this up really quick, and then we'll move on. But hold on a second. To what you said, Chuck, you said Kiss did it a couple of times. And in 2000, they announced a farewell tour. That is true. But Gene Simmons in an interview even said that this is a farewell to the original lineup. Okay. And then when that tour finished up, Ace Frehley was gone. Peter Criss was gone for a period. He came back under contract for one more tour in 2003. And by 2004, he was completely gone. So from 2004 until now, they've been on a tour, or they've been touring, pretty much year after year without announcing a farewell. So they did it once. Some people say, oh, didn't they do it 3, 4, 5 times? No, just one time until 5 years ago when they announced the end of the road tour, which just wrapped up over the weekend about 5 days ago in New York.
I don't know how these guys do it at 70 years old, almost out there jumping around in 6-inch heels and doing that stuff for that many years. It's pretty amazing. But hey, if you say they only did it once, I believe you. I've learned my lesson. I don't argue with you. I think I've been right once.
Oh, please. We're not going to do that. But the thing that made me angry about it really got me going about Foreigner was last year when they announced their farewell tour. I believed it because Mick Jones had done an interview with Eddie Trunk on his show. I think it was in 2016, and Eddie asked him. At that time, Mick did not perform in all the shows. He would perform various shows, and sometimes he would only come out and do an encore. And he's had a lot of health issues over the years. So and he's about 80 years old as well. That's yeah, he's about 80 years old.
Man.
So last year, well, let me go back. So Eddie Trunk asks him, okay, so Mick, when you are done, is Foreigner done? And he said, yes. He said, when he's done, there is no more Foreigner, because he's the only original member left in the band. This is his band now. Okay. Yeah. And he said, when he's done, the band is done. Well, they went out on the farewell tour, and I crossed my fingers and hoped that, okay, if it's really farewell, then Mick should show up and he should be at all the shows. Well, I don't know if he was at any of the shows. He wasn't at the show that I went to. And so they finished the tour, and now just a few days ago, they announced they're going out again. And that kind of that upsets me, because people spend money, some more than others, because this is it. This is my last chance to see the band. And then this happens. And I used the example of what Motley Crue did 7 or 8 years ago, when they did their, okay, we're not touring anymore. We signed a contract. It says right here we can't tour. And I never believed it then, but I thought, well, what are you guys gonna do? Sue yourselves? So, and then what was it? 2-3 years ago, they announced the stadium tour that went out with Def Leppard and Poison and Joan Jett. It was a great bill, but they went back on their word. And I know for a fact there were a lot of people upset about that, because they thought the shows in LA, which ended that tour, they paid a lot of money for those tickets. Those tickets were very expensive. And so when this stadium tour got announced a few years ago, people were pissed.
Well, maybe the thing is Mick Jones has had maybe he's not playing the guitar and playing in the shows every night, but maybe he had a big say-so on what they were doing. And now that he's really, cutting loose, these guys want to go on tour without him. Maybe he was making it difficult for him. And it's like, you know what? We're going to continue the tour. We're going to do it without him, because maybe he was just making life difficult. It's like a whole new tour.
Well, I completely disagree. and Jim is sitting over here, and Jim's just keeping his mouth shut.
I don't give a
Well, he doesn't like Foreigner. He wants to talk about Uriah Heep.
And we will. We are absolutely going to do that. So, all right, we'll skip that. I appreciate your opinion on it, and thanks for chiming in with the 5 or 6 words you did, Jim. So I brought my brothers in on the show, and as I said in introducing them, Jim is the older brother, not the oldest, but Jim is the older brother. He is 9.5 years older than me, and which means he's 12 years older than you, Chuck.
Yeah.
So what's that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is just kind of, I'm gonna hit you first, Jim. Is what was it like having 2 younger brothers, especially as much much younger than you? What was that like for you growing up?
It was nothing that it wasn't. It was actually a kind of funny. Some of the first things that I remember about you when they brought you over to enter one one weekend to pick me up for visitation, I asked Dad, I says, "Where's Ben at?" And he goes, "He's out, passed out in the in the in the station wagon." And I go, "Wow, what happened?" "Well, he got into a box of chocolates. Well, they were actually X-Lax." And I go, "What?" And I knew what X-Lax were. I mean, I I go running out there, and you're sprawled out, and you've got like the opposite of an Al Jolson, but this big old chocolate shit all around your mouth, and you're all passed out, and I'm just like, ha, ha, ha. I was just laughing so bad. I don't know what your drawers look like, but your mouth looked pretty bad.
Well, probably worse. And that's where we're going to start. We're starting there, Chuck. Really?
Well, that's his first memory. So hey,
Well, no, I remember other memories, but
All right.
but that was the first one. It wasn't. I mean, you you got to remember, until I'm 9 years older, so it was completely different until you guys started to get older,
Right.
and you were Hell on Wheels.
And-
You were.
And just to let the audience in on this a little bit, we did not grow up together. Chuck and I did. Chuck and I and our younger sister, we share the same mother. And Jim and our older sister, Judy, who lives in Michigan, they have the same mother. So what we have in common is our father.
Same sperm, different egg.
Well, and I like to dub, he was the father of our country, because we have other siblings too. I don't know if we'll get into that. We might get into that a little bit tonight. But yes, we have some other siblings, and so that's why I call him the father of our country. We have children all over the place.
yeah,
But yeah, until you guys got older, I remember when Chuck was just born,
Yeah.
still in the, what do you call those things?
A little bassinet.
Bassinets,
Yeah.
So y'all were living, I think, off of Bellflower in a mobile home park, and Chuck was sleeping on the in a bassinet. I propped up on something
On top of the stove or something like that.
I think it was.
We're talking 68 here. Come on.
Yeah. And then you and I were asleep in that bed, and I remember you had the most weirdest, awkwardest sleeping position. You would sleep with your chest and head on the mattress, your ass would be up in the air, and you would wrap the blanket around your head, and I would wake up going, "How's that kid breathing?" And I'd like, and I could see your chest rise and fall. I'm going, "Oh my God." And then I'd roll over and just hope that you wouldn't suffocate during the night.
Okay.
But
that's quite amazing though. Let's see. So I'm just born. Ben's 2.5 years old, which makes you 12, 13 years old. And you're actually thinking about looking over and see if he's breathing.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes.
So
thanks, brother.
The things that I remember about him, both of us had I don't have any hair left up here yet, but both of us had a cowlick. He had them on both sides. I think I just had them on one side. And yeah, so
yeah, it takes a little bit of spray gel to get this to stand up and not fall in my face.
Yeah. And then I have other memories of you when over on the, not Hoover, what's on Gregory. Yeah. We used to call you Yucky Chucky, and
yeah,
explains a lot about me.
Do you remember that?
Absolutely remember that.
Yeah. You were pretty little.
Think about the internal scars that caused me growing up.
Oh yeah, I know. You're so damaged.
Yeah, I remember sitting there, you in your high chair, and then Dad was, let's see, where was he sit? He'd sit across from me, and then you would sit here, Ben would be down at that end of the table, and then he'd start doing that facete esclanzata te venans nomea and doing all kinds of, yeah, I remember. Well, I was older, right?
Yeah, of course.
And you guys were just little and running up and down the halls, and just, I mean, when I come over, it was like I was the new toy
Yes.
that got put away for a week, and you would just make life interesting during the weekend visits.
Now, Chuck, I know you're going to agree with this, because at that point, Jim had already moved back with his mother and stepfather. They moved back to Michigan, and Jim would, if you remember, Jim would come out like twice a year.
Yeah.
He would come out Christmas break, and then he would come out again during the summer. So, I mean, I know for me, I think we both used to celebrate the fact that Jim was coming back home. He was coming home. He was coming home to stay for a while, and he used it. He said it earlier. We were hell on wheels. I think we made him and his friends miserable.
I think so. I agree. I remember being very excited every time he would show up. It's like, oh, he's here. Yeah. And I just think, looking back on that, it's like, if I was in your shoes, Jim, I'd be like, oh man, just leave me alone. But
well, there was just so much. I wanted to go out and do other things. There was just, you guys had a different pace than I did. And
well, I got to ask you a question. Dad never ever said to you something like, you have to take your brothers with you anywhere you went, right? He never like made you do anything like that, did he?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. We were just too young. We were too young.
Yeah. So one of the other things, fond memories, was that you guys were like a pack of wolves. You guys would always sleep in the same room, no matter what. You had these, I mean, I slept out in the back patio.
No, the back house. We had a bachelor house.
No. I'm talking in Linwood. When I lived in Linwood,
oh yes,
I had a back patio that I slept in.
Right.
Over on Gregory, even on Gregory, you guys were like pack animals. You slept in the room together.
No, Chuck and I, we had our bedroom, we had our bunk beds, and we slept there. And you had to share one of the beds.
Yes,
you slept on the top bunk. I remember one time when you were our dad. Just so that everybody knows, our dad was a mechanic by trade, and he owned a few businesses during his time. And this goes way back. When this
69.
Well, yeah, this goes way back to when it was called a service station, not a gas station, where you could go get gas and get your car worked on. You didn't go get gas and go in and grab a soda. So Dad had he that was his trade. He was an auto mechanic, and he did have a business that was right across the street from I believe it was like Bill's Liquor Store or something on Washington Boulevard. And I don't know. I think he gave you some money to go over and get him a fifth of VO, and you came back with a beer for yourself. I just remember you getting tore up that night. And you puked all the way down the wall from the top bunk, all the way down the wall at the house. So thank you for that.
But I thought you guys were sleeping in the other room.
No.
No.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I just know that Mom got so mad at Dad. How can you? Oh yeah, that was when Uncle. Well, it was actually Dad's cousin Denver came out to visit. They were drinking VO. I got the bottle of Olympia. I drank the quart of beer, and then he said, "Here, I'm already drinking. I'm not gonna go across the street and get you another."
And beer. That was at about 14 or 15 years old.
I was in 7th grade. Yes, I was 7th grade. So
that's 13.
Yeah.
13.
So yeah. And I remember when we left the station and I got sick in the parking lot. And he's
all over the place.
Yeah, he was just shaking his head, like, well, you got to learn sometime. So, boom, went home, and I don't remember getting sick during the night, but yeah, that was That was my first.
Yeah, and about 69, you were just a little bit too young for that one, Chuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't until we when mom and dad bought the house, literally, for everyone listening or watching, literally around the corner from where we were living, and we moved into that house. That was what we all like to call the Hoover house, and that was when you started coming into your own, Chuck.
Yeah.
and when Jim would come out, remember we had the bachelor pad out behind the house. We had basically a studio house.
Yep.
and
No bathroom, just all open. It had a
That's true.
kitchen. It had everything but a bathroom.
That's right. And then Jim would come out for the summer. He would come out for winter break, and of course when they would come out there, or when he would come out, let's see, Mike would come over, Mike Terrassis, I think Renee as well.
Renee, yeah.
I don't remember if Gino came over.
No, he wasn't in the
Okay,
picture.
all
then.
right. So definitely Mike and Renee. And then that's when you and I, Chuck, we would go out there and just terrorize these guys, jumping all over them, acting like heathens, I suppose.
And that's where Chuck had his first spear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all they wanted to do. They just wanted to sit around and have a couple of beers, and we were out there bugging them,
cranking up the music. And you and I, we were out there bugging. We just wanted to hang out with the bigger guys. That's all.
Yeah.
Yep. I gave Chuck the Heineken, thinking that he's gonna go, and the next thing I need, I see the bottle, the bottom of the bottle.
Yes,
it's going glug 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 glug. What the hell, dude? Boom.
As Chuck is now taking a sip off of a
0.0,
an alcohol-free Heineken, but Heineken nonetheless. Can you believe it?
Yeah. So I think I was probably a bad influence, maybe.
Oh, you think? You think?
Yeah. So, yeah.
So, so let me ask you this. Let me back up. And
how old were you in 74, Chuck?
Oh, Chuck, how old were you in 74? You were 6.
Okay.
But he was
6.
But this was probably a year earlier. He was about 5 years old when he swiped your beer.
No, that's the summer I came out after I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I do remember.
I would have been, if it was 74, the summer of 74, I'd have been 6.5. So
yeah. That's now legal drinking age now. There's a difference between 6 and 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our big brother, the bad influence.
Yeah. That was a fun little pad back there, man.
So, but I wanted to ask you, Jim.
Oh shit.
No, it's not bad. Because you are older and you spent. Our dad was well, first off, our dad would have been 100 in April of this year. He would have been 100. He passed away at 75. And he was a World War II veteran. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, did he serve in Korea? Are we unclear about that?
I don't know if he served Korea. I think not. The reason I'm saying it is I don't remember ever seeing him in his blues or whatever. In fact, the Korean War was going on during the time he had that shop in Gardena.
Okay.
So no.
All right.
No.
So
he was World War II.
Okay. So we know he served in World War II. He served on a destroyer. And for Chuck and I growing up, Dad never really talked about his time in the war. He did mention the fact that he fought in World War II. He did mention the fact that he was on a destroyer. And he did have his Navy anchor tattoo on his forearm, just like Popeye. But that was kind of it. Would you agree, Chuck?
Well, yeah.
I remember one time him mentioning seeing people being killed by him.
W-
That's
Well,
all I remember. I remember one time he mentioned it.
Right.
On a
Okay.
battleship, you're at a distance, right? You're lobbing
Yeah.
shells out of a whatever 20-inch gun or whatever. So what he would talk about was, and that's why he went deaf, is that they scrambled and I remember him saying, he said he went deaf when they scrambled and he was too close to one of the guns and they fired salvo, which means all the guns are pointing and then the ship just rocks back from that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says, that's when I lost my hearing.
Try to stay up on the microphone, okay?
So
professional broadcast here.
So anyway, he didn't really talk about it. I mean, I've got movies of him in Japan doing some signals and stuff like that. Or maybe he was over. I don't know. I think it was Japan. I'm pretty sure. But I've got movies where he's signaling and whatnot.
Okay, then why, at 58 years old right here, and Chuck, you were still 55, why are we just hearing about these movies now? Come on, Jim.
I told you I had movies.
No, I've never heard about movies. I know you've had a ton of pictures, that's for sure.
Yeah,
because we've seen a lot of those pictures. And
yeah,
they're and
so when Judy got turned into a CD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All our old childhood movies.
Okay.
And whatnot. She put on a CD of me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and when I was little, I was extremely hyper. I was worse than you. I made you look like a snail. So that's, yeah. And I look at those pictures of me spinning around in circles like a Tasmanian devil and whatnot. And I'm just going, my mom was a saint to put up with me.
Well, she was a saint to put up with you, period. Forget about spinning around like a Tasmanian devil. She was a saint for the later years. That's for sure. Yeah. I see you nodding your head over there, Chuck.
I'm just thinking that poor lady had to go through so much, dealing with you, dealing with Dad. I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and to really get into it, I think for the three of us, certainly in separate households with Dad and at different times in his life, it was pretty tough. It was a challenge. Dad was an alcoholic. Dad was he was a closet alcoholic because he would never admit that he even drank. He said he hated alcohol. He would never drink. Yet we would find his empty VO bottles, and these were the early days until probably the mid 70s when he switched to vodka. But we would find the empty fifth bottles in the glove box in the car, under the driver's seat in the car, in the desk drawer at work, above the lockers at work, every place we'd find a fifth, and it would have not even a sip left in the bottle. It'd always be pretty much empty.
When you came to a quick stop in that Ranchero, it sounded like you were visiting a glass recycling factory, all that stuff. Cling, 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 cling.
So that had to be pretty tough for you. I mean, speak a little bit about that, Jim. I know we're cutting Chuck out of this right now. I don't know why, but you're free to chime in at any time. Okay, brother?
Okay.
I think he's enjoying his alcohol-free Heineken.
Wasn't sports your guys' escape? I was sportsy, but not to the extent that you guys were.
Is that a new word? Sportsy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, and I don't know if that's because I watched the stuff.
Right.
And then you guys just kind of hung around and, your cartoon day was ruined with college football or whatever. And then you started watching it, or I don't know how you guys gravitated to the sports, but I'm going to say, me just looking back at you guys, that was your escape. maybe.
Well, I think, and Chuck, please, um, I think it was a blessing to have a younger brother and to be that close in age,
Absolutely.
because now once he got to be old enough, 3 4 years old, now we could pal around, whether it was out in the front yard, out in the backyard, whatever it was. When we moved to the Hoover house, we had a big park across the street, and Chuck and I would go over to that park, and it would just be him and I'd have a ball, or we'd have a ball, we'd have a bat. Sometimes we took our baseball gloves, sometimes we didn't, and we would play baseball for hours over there, just him and I. I'm pitching to him, he's hitting the ball, vice versa. And so it was, whether it was an outlet or not, I'm not sure. I can say that I was introduced to baseball, which has always been my passion, in 1969. Dad took us all to a Dodger game, and that was it for me.
Yep, we
And
sat right behind the dugout, right?
right,
We had those 76
exactly
tickets.
Yes, yeah, we had the field box seats right behind the dugout. And so that was when my love for baseball began. And being that Chuck was a little younger than me, what was he going to do? Tell his big brother no? So we just, we had the company of each other, which I think really helped a lot. I know Judy she's right around the same age difference.
Yeah,
but now you're talking a girl.
She's a girl, totally
Right.
different. Her and I are.
You're like polar opposites.
Yeah.
So I think that was our advantage. I can tell you that later on, and we might get into this, that later on, not only was athletics an outlet for us, but because Chuck and I had all the same friends, we were always together. And that was another outlet for getting away from home, which I'm going to let you speak to that a little bit, Chuck, about how home was with dad's alcoholism, and how kind of, we dealt with that, watching the situation between him and mom pretty much like 6 nights a week.
I only say I remember being relieved when you'd come home and he either wasn't there or he was passed out and you knew you weren't going to have to interact with him that day.
Right.
That's just what I remember. I mean, there's so many stories we could go into, but we would be here for hours and hours and hours talking about those stories. I just remember the relief internally, like, okay, I don't have to face him today. He's either passed out or he's not there. And that was, yeah. But if he was there, I was scared. You didn't want to cross him, because when the belt came out and it started, it didn't stop quickly. So
and it's funny you say that. And I can think back in my head, and I think we all agree that, spanking your child, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to beat your child, but I think a nice swat on the behind from time to time to straighten them out is okay. And the one thing is, we rarely got it from Dad, right? You take another guzzle.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, probably rarely is probably it, but
we rarely got it from Dad. We got it from Mom all the time. And that was probably just because of
who was around your shit all the time.
Who you and I were, Chuck.
Yeah, but you could take it from Mom. Like Dad swung hard, and hard, and it didn't. Like I said, it didn't stop quickly. So hard and over and over and over again. Where Mom, a couple slaps here, or, with a belt or whatever, and that was fine. But yeah, it was different when Dad.
No, you're absolutely right. And when, I think you and I got so used to being whipped with the belt, and we got the belt. We got so used to being whipped by Mom that we used to have to fake cry just so she would stop and leave us alone, and we could go back to doing what we were doing that was getting us whipped in the first place.
Yeah.
But yeah, you didn't want to make dad, you didn't want to get dad to that point, right?
No, man, that was brutal. I do
Because
remember one time. I remember one time. We were in a car. I think we were at a gas station. I think it was one of his stations. We pulled in. Maybe he was going to pick up something. I don't remember what I said, but he reached back in the back seat and just slapped me across the face. I was like, "Whoa, man!"
well,
I don't know what the heck. I don't know what I said.
you know what? If dad was under the influence at that time, it didn't really take much. He did have a pretty short fuse, but he also had big old mitts.
Yeah, they hurt.
Yeah, he had big giant hands, and when he made a fist, that was a big giant fist. So either way, open hand, closed hand, you don't want to get hit by dad. But you know, I'll say, and I hope you chime in a little bit, Chuck. I hope you kind of finish some of this as well. It was just, and you started to mention it, how we'd come home and it was either going to be a little nerve-wracking and maybe even a little terrifying, or you were going to feel a sense of relief. It was one or the other. And I think, to be honest, we could tell if we were out on the sidewalk in front of the house how it might be, because we could hear mom and dad yelling at each other from out in the street. Would you agree? Would you agree?
Yeah. You kind of knew most of the time, like you were saying, you kind of knew before you entered the house.
Yes.
What you're in for.
Definitely. And about, I said earlier, about 6 nights a week, dad would come home from work. He usually had somebody else closing up the shop. Sometimes he'd stay to close up, but not generally. But he'd come home and fight with mom, have a little bit of dinner, fight some more with mom. Not necessarily physical. It was pretty much just yelling, but there was a time or two. And then he would pass out either on the living room floor, on the couch in the living room, or even at the dining room table, and he'd be in his uniform. Am I right?
Yeah. I do remember one time I specifically remember, I don't know, it was something about him when he would eat steak or he would be a little tipsy and eat some meat. I remember he choked on a piece of meat one time, and mom picked him. Yeah, mom picked him up over, I think, her shoulder, and he was in. I don't know how she did it because she's a skinny thing at the time, and he wasn't a big guy, but he was much bigger than she was, and yeah, she had to work on him to hawk up that meat there.
Yeah,
it was That was on. I'm pretty sure it was Hoover.
Yeah, and it's weird. I don't. Maybe it was because he was drunk. He had a hard time. Maybe he just wasn't chewing right or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that happened a time or
It
two.
happened. Yeah, it happened more than once. I just remember that one time because I think that was probably one of the extreme ones.
Yeah. And were you pretty scared that time?
I remember not really knowing what was going on. I didn't quite understand what was going on. So, wow. I mean, again, it was probably before I had the first beer. I think I was short. I mean, how long did we live on Hoover? Do you remember?
We lived on Hoover for it was maybe the beginning of 72, and we moved in 75.
So it would have been towards the beginning of that. It would have been towards the beginning of that.
Right. We moved to the lovely house over there.
Oh, we moved to that dump in West Covina. And I don't have anything against West Covina, but I do have something against that house that we moved into. That's for sure. And I'm 9 years old at the time, and I knew it was a dive.
You go from a thick walled, old 1930s built home to whatever those things were, quickly put together.
I think we called it a cracker box.
Yes. Yeah.
Closed the front door and the whole house shook.
We didn't live there long either, though.
We lived there a whole 10 months.
Yeah.
Because we moved back to Whittier, thank God. 10 months later, we moved to West Covina in January. We moved back to Whittier. I believe our very first night back in Whittier, and that's when we moved to the Hadley house. And all these homes, for everybody who's not aware of the area, all these homes were outside of West Covina, but all the Whittier homes were within a mile of each other. So they were all very close. So
you maintain your close friends.
We did. We maintained our friends, which was obviously important to Chuck and I, because that's, that's when it wasn't the two of us, when we were able to get out and run down the street or around the corner or whatever it might be. Yeah, we had our friends. And as I said, we had the same friends. I would say from the time we first had friends, going back to as far as I could remember, I mean, all the way into our young adult life. Would you agree?
Yeah.
When you were in La Puente, did you have different friends, or did you just kept your old friends, Chuck?
You're talking about
when you went to live with Frank.
Okay, so that was right there near La Puente. It was actually West Covina again.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Yeah, West Covina kind of branches out, and it was a little strip of West Covina, but you're right, it was right next to La Puente. So, no, you know what? I still did keep in contact with our core group of friends because we'd get together on the weekends and do stuff. We would either drink, play poker, things like that. So I would still do that. I rarely hung out with my friends from Los Altos. I had one friend from Los Altos because that's where I was going at the time.
Right.
And I hung out with
Los
him.
Altos, just to be clear, just to let everybody in, Los Altos was your
high school.
Your high school. Okay.
High school. So so I was in high school at the time, and I would still hang out with our core friends, Javier,
Anthony,
Tom, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
So
right.
Right.
And I think Bob had moved back down from up north at that point too, so he was here again. John,
where did Bob live at that time?
Well, remember,
he lived up on that apartment building for a little while on Pickering or something like that.
That was later on. He was living in Long Beach at the time, actually.
Oh, yes, that's right. Because I visited him once at Long Beach. The only reason I remember Pickering is because in West Covina was because one time we went drinking. I needed to get home that night, and he wouldn't take me home. Now it's a long drive from Whittier, that part of Whittier, to where we were living in West Covina.
I agree.
Whatever. And I walked from Pickering all the way to West Covina.
Crap.
You did not.
I got home. Oh, yes, I did. I left about maybe 11-ish. I think I got home at 4:30 in the morning.
Should I send an email? Should I email Bob a link and we get him on here and you can air your grievance with him right now?
No grievance, but I just couldn't believe. I think back at that, I was like, okay, first of all, I don't remember the exact route I went to walk that many miles because it's hard to get through there. I know I went up Workman Mill Road all the way, along the 605. That's where I went, and I went up there, and I can't remember how I got there, but yeah, that was a long walk.
For those of you who are listening to this and are not aware geographically of where we're speaking of and where we grew up, that's quite a jaunt. This is probably about a 15-mile walk.
And he had to go up and over the hill too.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And if you went up Workman Mill, you walked right by the cemetery too.
Yes. That's exactly.
Did that scare the pants off of you?
No, I was just because I was still a little buzzed at the time, and I was like, I just gotta get home. And I don't know why I didn't want to stay at Bob's that night. I have no idea. It was probably something with Frank. You got to come home. Telling me you got to be home by midnight or something, and I just started walking.
Right.
So,
oh my gosh. So let me back up a little bit. So yeah, needless to say, growing up in a household with an alcoholic parent who doesn't like to admit he's an alcoholic, but comes home 6 out of 7 nights a week and is drunk and fights with everybody, especially mom. The one saving grace for us was that mom used to. We're talking the two of us, we're 10, 12 years old at this point, but mom would give us money and say, pretty much beat it, get out of here. Mom, we want to go to the movies. Here's some money. Go to the movies. And we lived right down the street from a movie theater, so that was convenient. We lived a block away from the neighborhood bowling alley. When I say neighborhood, it was 10 whole lanes. It was that small. It was a tiny bowling alley, but it was our bowling alley.
It was literally in the middle of a neighborhood. It was the strangest place to have a bowling alley, but it was the coolest place to go, which was 2 blocks away. Probably a total of 10 or 12 houses up the street.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
If that, right.
Yeah.
But you're right. That was such a cool place to hang out, and the owners of the bowling alley were always really good to us, and
Yeah.
we were good to them, and that was, like I said, that was our bowling alley.
Yeah. Yeah. What did they do with that place?
Well, they tore it down after the '87 quake.
Earthquake.
There's actually a house that sits on that property.
Okay, I didn't know the '87 quake is what did it in.
That's what did it in.
And the show and all that stuff.
And the movie theater, the movie
Oh
theater.
yeah, I've been by the movie theaters, and it's no longer there.
Oh, that was such a great theater. Oh man,
that was the olden days when you could go to a movie and just sit there all day, and we did that. We would go to the movies and we just sit there all day.
You're right, we would.
Yeah. Do you remember? I don't know how old you were. There was some kind of youth thing where I called Little Indians or something.
Oh, like Indian guides.
Indian guides. Yeah. You guys were. I remember seeing Dad. He was wearing this big old feathered headdress, and I'm going, and he's all dark and everything, and I'm going, holy moly, man! And he's got war paint on, and
yep.
And I don't know what you were wearing.
Well, Chuck was a little bit too young for it.
Right. Yeah.
So Dad and I were involved for a couple of years, and the way Indian Guides works is like I don't know if it's a half a year or every year, the chief of the tribe changes hands, and so Dad was chief of the tribe at that time. We were the Iroquois, and I remember he was Big Running Rabbit and I was Little Running Rabbit, and what's up?
I never knew that.
What's up with that? Well, you're making fun of me?
I just never knew that you guys had like Indian names.
We did.
Okay, absolutely. All right. Because I gotta ask a question. When you're done with your thought, I gotta ask a question.
Ask away.
Okay. I don't know where the tail came from, and it is a tail, right? And not a tail on a back, but a tail, T-A-L-E, tail. That Dad had Native American blood in him.
False.
He doesn't. Because I've had my DNA done, and I thought I was going to get a casino. I thought it was going to come back and say I was 10%, 15% Native American, and I was going to apply for a casino, and that never happened. So I don't know where did that come from, Jim?
Okay, we're going to get into that right now. Good segue. We're going to get into that. So yes, we grew up, Jim, you, me, everyone, Judy, Jennifer, we all grew up being told that we were American Indians. We were Native American. We're American Indians. Okay, that was the term.
I gotta laugh. It's the 3 whitest crackers I've ever seen here, and that's what we were told.
But you're right. And Mom, our mother, probably whiter than you and I, and you're translucent. And but Dad, red skin, black hair, blue eyes. To look at Dad,
high cheekbones.
High cheekbones. To look at Dad, you would look at him and he would say, yes. If someone told me he was a Native American Indian, if he was of Cherokee descent, which is what we were told we were Cherokee, you would say, yes, I 100% agree with that. I believe you. And yet, Mom told me a few years ago that, yes, you had your DNA checked and absolutely nothing. When Mom told me that, I asked her, I said, is there something you want to tell me, Mom?
Yeah.
And like I said, we grew up our entire lives thinking that we were American Indians, that we were Cherokee Indians, proud of it. In 2007, I contacted the Cherokee Nation to get the paperwork so that I could file and become part of the Cherokee Nation. And I never completed the paperwork. It was very
That's the
involved.
hardest tribe to get into, by the way.
And it was very involved. Oh my gosh. And this was before all DNA testing and all that anyway. So but they have all those records. So yeah, so we've grown up our entire lives thinking that we're Cherokee Indians. You get tested 0%. When I met Catherine, just in our conversation, you talk about your heritage, and I said, yeah, I'm Cherokee Indian, and she just about fell out of her chair. She said, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am." Our first Christmas together, she gets me the ancestry thing, the kit for Christmas.
So that's how much she believes in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, she Googles me all the time anyway. So she gets me the ancestry kit, and I do the thing, spit in it, send it away. 2 weeks later, it comes back. I get the results. Her and I are sitting at the kitchen table. I open it up and I start reading it. And I was just like the damn Indian on the side of the road. I had the tear coming down my cheek.
That's from a commercial back in the 70s.
Yeah, I'm crying because I'm blown away. I am like 98.7 Northern European. So, brother, we're not even close to Indians. We are Vikings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jim won't do it. Jim doesn't want to give anybody his DNA. So
Right.
Not that way.
Yeah.
Right, not that way. You'd rather give it to a woman instead of a lab, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things.
Gosh.
So,
horrible.
I got on,
just terrible.
Family Search, which is I think it's a Mormon database. Anyway, and I went, and it's really hard to get do search on via females because they change their names and whatnot.
Right.
So supposedly, I heard that it was I forget how far back she goes, but her name was Pinky Nelson. Okay, and that name does show up. Okay, she came from, her family lineage came from Oklahoma, Missouri, somewhere around there. So I'm going, well, that kind of could be, but these guys have been tested and yeah, they're nothing. So anyway, you couldn't really prove it. And so then I haven't met, but you guys have met her. You just don't remember her. Sharon, Uncle Jim's daughter. I'm going to go back and see her this summer. And I was talking to her and she's going, no, there's no Indian on our side.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, yep, okay. I'm going, well, I don't know what to say, but Dad said, she goes, no.
So go ahead, Chuck.
I was just going to say,
go ahead.
One thing I found fascinating about the ancestry test was it shows where you came from or where your ancestors came from and where they kind of started to live in the United States. Yeah. And one of the places, obviously, where I think Dad was from, Pennsylvania, it was like Harrisburg or something like that. Wasn't it something like that, Jim?
No, it's Charleston. It's Huntington, West Virginia.
Logan is where they're originally from. Okay. But he spent time in Huntington. It's all okay. Yeah.
Which so it was very interesting how it showed that, and I was like, that's absolutely where I know Dad was from and where he had a bunch of family and stuff.
Right, and I think that's pretty close to the. I think when you look at it on the map, it's pretty close to Pennsylvania. You got Ohio right there.
No, it's down by Kentucky. Oh. That's where the Maynards are befriended the Hatfields.
Yes, that's right, Chuck. I don't know if you're aware of this one. Jim has made me aware of this, that we were part of the Hatfield.
No, we weren't part of.
We weren't part of the fight.
We knew them, and we were they're on their side.
The Hatfields and the McCoys.
The McCoys lived on the other side of the tug. And
love it.
Yeah. So anyway, I chased our ancestry, the Maynards, all the way back. We came from England. So they came from England, and then they went to Virginia and stayed around the Appalachians, or they went to the Carolinas. That's where they branched off. They were either in the Virginia, West Virginia, or the Carolinas.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing how they tracked that from your DNA. I was like,
I don't
wow,
know how they
looked
do it.
accurate. So yeah, the only thing that was inaccurate was it didn't have any Native American for me. So
Yeah, right. I know. I want to get in on some of that casino action. Are you kidding me?
I know.
But I don't know how you felt about it, but I up until the time Catherine spoiled it for me, ruined my life. I was very proud to say that I was Cherokee Indian.
1/8. We were supposed to be.
We were supposed to be about an 8. Yeah,
yeah, because Dad was supposed to be a quarter,
Yep.
and which makes it an 8.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I told Nikki that too early on, and she just laughed at me. But then when I showed her a picture of Dad, she was like, "Okay, I can maybe buy into this a little bit." And I tell you, I can't tell you how excited I was when she got me the DNA test and I sent it away. I was
you were going to prove her that you were right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So was I, man. I opened that thing up, man. I filled that vial up with my saliva. Bam! I'm like, I'm going to show you, Catherine.
Yeah.
Well, look who showed who.
Hardy har.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I cried. I'm serious.
Yeah. I was surprised. I thought, this is not me.
I think I was 53 at the time. So you had a 53-year-old standing in the kitchen sobbing, because he found out that he's not who he thinks he is all these years.
Yeah.
But I used to wear that like a badge of honor. And,
well, you wonder how you would get into something like the Indian Guides, right? Was it something that Dad was told and didn't?
No, because that was just an organization like the Cub Scouts, but it was through the YMCA. So anybody could be in it. It wasn't.
Yeah, I know that, but why didn't you choose? But why choose the Indian Guides specifically instead of the Cub Scouts?
I have no idea. But maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's like, hey, we're Indians. We're going to get in. We're going to partake in this.
Right.
The only thing I remember about being in the Indian Guides was going on a snow trip to up near Big Bear. And I remember marching in the Uptown Whittier Christmas parade in our headdresses and we had leather pants. We wore leather pants. They were like suede leather and they had the fringe on them. We didn't have just a vest. We had a coat and it had the little frilly stuff hanging off the sleeves. It was great stuff. And we wore moccasins and we would wear this to our meetings.
I remember one time you guys going.
And then I remember taking second place in the Pinewood Derby.
I was so envious of you guys having belonging the Indian Guides.
Get up on the mic a little bit. You don't have to be that close.
I just said I was envious.
Yeah.
Of you guys.
Why is that?
Because I didn't have that.
Well, I can't say it didn't make for not necessarily the Indian Guides, but moving beyond that, partaking in, like you had mentioned, Jim, that, Chuck and I, we were athletes our entire childhood into our young adult life as well. And that's all we did was, for both of us, primarily play baseball, but we played a lot of football. We played a lot of basketball. We played a lot of other sports. And then we even took it into roller hockey too. Did we not?
Yes.
But the thing is getting involved in those activities, especially you're playing Little League Baseball, where parents go to their kids' games, you ran the risk of Dad showing up to your game hammered and making a scene.
Yeah.
I would say the fortunate part is, and I'll say this, and I'm not butthurt over it. It's been many, many years. I got over it a long time ago, but when Chuck and I would play, no one came to my games, but they showed up to Chuck's games. True?
It's true, but like you said, you never know what you were going to get. You kind of worried that what was going to happen if Dad came and he was a little saucy. And like the time I got hit in the back of the head in the All-Star tournament. And
Yeah.
they took me to the hospital.
Yes.
And Dad didn't even know I was the one that got hit.
That is true.
He showed up later because someone had told him.
I'm going to share this story because I've shared this with Chuck. I didn't share it with Chuck because it's his story, but I told his daughter Kaylee this story. I wasn't even sure if she was aware of it at all because I think it is such a great story. Now, Chuck and I never played in Little League on the same team because of our age difference. But maybe I'll say this before I tell the story. Maybe the reason why Mom and Dad went to all your games is because my team sucked. The last 3 years I played on the Stars, we finished no better than third place all 3 years. So, I mean, you were your teams were always in the championship, always made it to the championship or won the championship. You always were on the All-Star team, and you were always one of the stars of the All-Star team as well. And so this is where I'm going with this. Chuck's playing in the All-Star tournament in Little League. I think it was your 11-year-old. I think you were 11 at the time. I think it was your 11-year-old.
I might have been 11, but I think it was the last year of that particular bracket. I think it was 12 and under. You call it 12 and under.
Majors is 10, 11, and 12.
Yeah.
So was it your last year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Chuck comes up to bat and playing one game, comes up to bat, and the pitcher throws a wild pitch, and Chuck turns his head away from the pitcher like you're supposed to, but the ball hits him right at the base of the helmet and the base of his skull. So it gets a little bit of both, and he goes down. And he's just laying there on the ground for quite some time. Well, he got up and he was fine. I won't say he was fine because he didn't continue to play, but there was some concern that he might have suffered a concussion. So he was taken to the hospital that was close by, and he was examined and ended up coming out okay. The team lost that game. Remember, they lost that night.
Yep.
And so that put you guys into the losers bracket.
That's right.
And then I remember the next game, it was, I think, 2 days later. Yeah. And they go in, they're up, playing still in the tournament. And Chuck comes to the plate for his first at bat that game. And look, I'm one of Chuck's biggest fans. I really, really am. And I see him and I can tell that he is really nervous about coming up to bat. And he's standing in the batter's box.
I was shaking.
Yes, your knees were a little bit wobbly. And he comes to the plate, and I believe it was the first pitch, and he cranks a home run. He cranks it over the fence. I don't remember if anybody was on base at the time. That part,
I let off that inning, I think.
Okay. All right, so it was a solo shot. But he cranks it over the left center field fence, and the team erupts because obviously they knew what had happened, 2 nights prior to that. And they erupt and they run out to round home plate, and he's circling the bases. And all I could see is Chuck rounding third base, and the tears are streaming down his face and there weren't tears of sadness, obviously, they were tears of joy because he immediately got the monkey off his back and not only just got a base hit and got on base, but what more could you do other than to hit the ball over the fence for a home run? And he's rounding third base with those tears streaming. And when he approaches home plate, they're just jumping up and down, and he just jumps right into their arms. He touches home plate, and the place was just erupting. It was so awesome. Everybody thought, vindication, right then and there. Yeah. But
that ball was at my eyeballs. It was up here, way at my head.
Yes, it definitely was not a strike.
No, and I just swung the bat because it was more it was over the plate. It was at my eyeballs. I don't know what got into me. I just swung the bat. It was, it was luck. It was luck, but it was one of the best memories I have of playing baseball, youth baseball.
Oh yeah, yeah. Look, it didn't even happen to me. And it's one of my best memories. No, really. I mean, really, because it's just. I mean, it's almost like one of those. I mean, it's like one of those feel good movies,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was always something. But I know you were a little bit envious or a little bit even jealous, Jim, but that was a fear that we always had. Fortunately, I'll say though that it was my last year playing Little League, and Chuck was in. They called it the Senior Bs. Now I think they call it Junior Division, but it's Senior B Division. And you had the manager, Joe Ledger.
Yeah.
You had one of his coaches, which was one of our friends. His name is Matt Cardenas, and his dad was one of the coaches. And then you had, I can't remember Robbie Rue's dad's name, but wasn't he one of the coaches also?
Oh shoot, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Nonetheless, those three guys plus dad, they were all drunks anyway. They were all big drinkers. So dad was in his element, and he wasn't he didn't feel like fighting or having an argument because they were all just, happy go lucky, and
Yeah.
so it was fine. So that was, I think, I think those are the times I didn't really, he could be embarrassing, but I didn't have to worry about that he was going to cause a big commotion.
The only time I was ever happy that he caused a big commotion was when Jeff Scheller was harassing us, and he went after Jeff Scheller.
He did.
Trying to track down this 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, and I think he was going to pulverize him if he actually latched onto him. And they were dancing around this car, and finally, I think Scheller ran away or something, and that was crazy.
Dad would have put the hurt to him, I tell you that.
If he had gotten his hands on him, he would have. But and for those, I said Dad was going to be 100 this year, would have been 100. So when I was born, Dad was 42 years old. So the time you're talking about, Chuck, Dad was already in his 50s, actually, but he was younger than I am right now.
It's so hard to believe,
and
when you look at it in that way. It's that's weird.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah, I mean, 11 or 12 years old. No, well, actually 10 years old, and your dad's in his 50s. But and I think that was one thing. See, that's one thing I believe that we missed out on was not only, and I mean we by Chuck and I, was not only
you saw a different side. You saw a after work side. You didn't see a working with him in the trenches like I did.
Right. Yes, because you actually did work for Dad, and you did get to work side by side with him for several years.
Yeah. So, yep. From the time I was 13 till I stopped till 21-ish, off and on, college and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, in fact, I don't know how he did it, but I looked at my Social Security statement, and I've been working since I was 10 and a half.
Holy smokes.
So I know that I would go over there and I would clean up, and he would pay me. I don't know how he worked it out with his taxes or whatever, but yeah, I was a 10 and a half year old kid working and drawing and paying Social Security. I don't know. It's definitely not legal, but yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But he I was a completely different guy. During the day, I learned so many skills, not just being a mechanic. The most important thing I learned from him was time management.
Right.
So we would, there's a flow when you've got 10 cars that you've got to get out the door. So there's a flow that things have to happen, and it's a really a really cool dance that you have to do of how to manipulate your time. So there is no off time, because time is money.
Right.
So if
Right.
you're twiddling your thumbs, you ain't making no money. So that was probably the biggest, the most valuable to me. I mean, I worked on cars till I got later in life with, my son and everything,
Yes.
but I fucking hated it. I freaking hated it, man. So, I mean, well, back then, you like a 67 Belvedere with a Hemi in it. They got this big car that you're leaning over, picking up 100-pound head. That way, I'm like maybe 115 pounds, and I'm climbing inside the car, picking up the head.
Right.
And so, it was hard. It was hard work, But yeah, but time management, most valuable thing I ever learned was from, yeah. And then I also learned that it's better to have him on your side than against it.
Well, yeah, no. Chuck and I can attest. Don't make him mad. You don't make him get the belt out. You can hear the belt as he pulls it through his belt loops.
Oh yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
speaking of that, Jim, and learning something from being around Dad in the work environment, and I don't know how you feel about this, Chuck, but I think that the one takeaway that I got from Dad was work ethic, was his work ethic, and I'll tell you what I mean is, as I said earlier, and we all know, usually it was 5-6 nights a week he'd come home from the shop and he'd be drunk, and I don't need to go through all of it, but whether didn't matter where he was passed out in the house, by about 4:30 in the morning he was up, showered, shaved, making his coffee, and by 5:30 he was opening up the shop, or he would be at the shop ready to open by 6. And he did that 5 to 6 days a week, and sometimes 7, not often, because you generally had somebody else that would handle that responsibility. So no matter what, no matter what Dad's condition was the night before, he was up before the crack of dawn and ready for work the next day, and never hung over. Never hung over. It's that experienced alcoholic, I guess.
He never really started drinking until it was on the downhill slope of getting the work done. When he could see daylight at the end of the day and things were done, you're just waiting on a few odds and ends. That's when he would go, and all of his shops had liquor stores across the street.
They all did. Every last one
He
of them.
would go across the street, get a bottle or whatever, and then you'd hear the paper bag, and then the.
Oh, do you remember, Chuck? There would be times when Dad would, and remember he had his MG. He had the 62 MG Mark II. Remember that?
Yeah, I was going to tell Jim something about that, but yeah,
you can.
I remember.
But Dad would, because such a great car. God, it was such a great car. But
wasn't it the same car that you had in your garage that was banged up and that you sold eventually?
Yes. That's because this girl backed into it.
Right.
Yes. And that was the same car Dad promised me when I was 13. That's where I learned to drive a stick shift in that car. In Yorkfield parking lot at 13 years old. Dad was drunk that day. I shouldn't have believed him when he said, when you turn 16, this car is yours. But nonetheless, I think it was about 2 or 3 days before my 16th birthday. I reminded him of that. Of course, he said, I never said that.
I never knew that. I never heard that story.
I was crushed.
You would be.
But where I was going with this is, remember, he would take us, you and I, he said, come on, boys, come on. And we would jump in can't say the front seat because it was a 2-seater, but we'd sit in the passenger seat, no seatbelts, of course.
Yeah.
And such unsafe cars.
And drive us down the street to Bailey's Liquor. And the three of us would get out, and he'd be talking usually to Bill, who was behind the counter, Bill lived across the street from the liquor store. And he would get his VO, or yeah, that was before the vodka days. He would get his VO, and I clearly would see it happening. And then for our time, my time and your time, he would give us a Tootsie Roll. And then we would jump back in the car, and before Dad would start it, yep, pull the paper bag down on the bottle, take a swig, and like you did it, make that bitter, that that face, and then put it either in the glove box or under the seat. Is that how you recall it?
Well, yeah, I don't. I do recall going to Bailey's Liquor, but we used to go to the Uptown Liquor too. And he would pull up on the side, and it was a big brick side of the building.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he would just go into the side door because I didn't know what it was, and he'd come out with a paper bag and something, stuff it under. He wouldn't take a drink. I don't remember him taking a drink, or maybe he did, but then he would stuff it under the seat. So I remember him going there with us in the MG as well. So yeah, he had a couple different places.
He may have had a special entrance at that one there.
It was on the side, so it was the front faced Greenleaf.
Yes,
and the side faced, I don't remember what street it was. It could have been Penn. It could have been
Penn or Mar Vista, one of the two.
One of those. Yeah, and he would go in the side door. You wouldn't know where he was going. He'd come out with a paper sack.
Right.
The only reason I got that car was because I bought it from him.
I know.
He was going through the divorce and he needed money for his lawyer.
Right. And so he sold it to you.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have had it. But I think he sold that car 2 or 3 times.
How do you sell a car 2 or 3 times?
Because the guy would he would crash it. And then dad would buy it back for less than what he paid for it. And then he would fix it up, and it got recycled like that a couple times. There was a guy that had a bunch of old cars. We were doing mostly British cars. There wasn't a lot of places people could take their foreign cars to. Yeah. So, we had MGAs, Healey's, Mercedes-Benz,
Jaguars.
Yeah,
I remember Jaguars.
We had people would bring them over, and
he was living uptown. This was late in the whole story. He was living uptown.
Oh yeah.
But he was living kind of off of Beverly Boulevard, up a street a little bit.
It was on Floral Drive.
There you go. And he had a little green car in the garage that I used to wax all the time because I was 13, and that was, as he told you, Ben, this is going to be your car. That was my car when I was 16.
That was it was a Sprite.
Oh, Sprite. That's right. Yeah, Sprite.
Yeah.
That's right.
But it was a Triumph.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a
little green thing.
Sprite. Yeah, bug-eyed Sprite. That's what it was.
He liked those. He liked those. He liked those convertible sports cars. He had. I mean, how many MGs did he have over the years?
I think at least 3, maybe 5.
Right.
So he had 3. I know he had 3 at one time, sitting in the garage, there. Yeah.
I think 2 were red and 1 was blue. I think.
I don't remember that.
Okay.
And then he had the 6-cylinder Healey, which is worth a lot of money. All those cars are.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, yeah.
Well, yeah, we could cry about that all night long. the money that Dad had, the money that he made, and the money that he threw away.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you, Chuck, because Jim and I have talked about this a little bit, and I don't know. I think we're up in the air on it, but I think now it brings a little bit of, I don't know. Let me just ask you this. So, there's when guys fought in World War II and the veterans came back home.
Do I got time for a bio break?
Go ahead. I'm talking to Chuck here. I almost took one, but I was going to leave you two talking. So anyway, we were talking, and I, like I said, the guys from World War II, those veterans, they came back home. Look, they saw a lot, whether it was on the Pacific side or whether it was on the other side of the Atlantic. Okay, there was 2 wars that were being fought, and men back then they never shared their feelings. They didn't talk about that stuff. And I started thinking about this maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and this is where I'm going with it. Do you think that maybe that's where Dad's alcoholism began, because there was no outlet for him? Men didn't talk about their feelings, and he buried those feelings in the bottom of a whiskey bottle.
I think that's a factor. Absolutely. You know, it is hereditary, right? I mean, it runs in family, so there's something in your DNA that makes you like that, which is why I stopped 7 years ago. But I do think that's a part of it. Being in the military, especially that war, those. If you ever are fortunate enough, I know you have probably been able to talk to a World War II veteran, but if you ever talk to them and you ever watch any documentaries on World War II, it is the greatest, and this is, this is cliche, but it is the greatest generation of people, men and women, I think, that ever lived, because of what they had to do to just get it done. The women building stuff in factories, the men over there dying, or seeing their
women building die. The women building in the factories while their men were dying.
Right. It is the greatest generation of people to ever, I think, ever live. But I think that's a part of it. Yeah, it has to play a part in it. And what's sad for me is when I look back at Dad and knowing him, I guess I wish I would have recognized that sooner, or looked at him in that light, that this guy was in this war that so many people died, but it was evil against good, and good prevailed. I wish I could see him in that light of that generation of people, but the bad things that we experienced and that we saw, it just outweighs the rest. So
yeah, I can
so
see
I don't know if
that
that answers your question, but
well, no, it does. I mean, I think we're all of the same mindset on that could have been where that started. But as you said, it is hereditary. I mean, come on, Aunt Gertrude. I mean, she was a raging alcoholic herself, on a different, I don't want to say in a different level, but a different type. She wasn't violent like Dad would get. Well, at times, yes, you're right, Jim. You're right.
She wasn't hiding it either. She was open with it. She would drink, all day long, and
that
she
is
wasn't
true,
trying
right
to hide
there.
it.
And maybe that's the biggest difference. She was open about her drinking, whether she felt it was a problem or not, and Dad was closeted, and Dad was in complete denial. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's the big difference. You're right. But there were times, and I know you started to jump out of your chair, Jim. There were times that Auntie could be violent and was violent. You're right. But I don't know. It's just something I had thought of, and I guess, when you grow up, and of course we didn't know about this. We didn't think about this. This isn't how people thought, period, when we were kids. Even when Jim was, and Jim's older than us. But as we get older, we hope we get a little wiser. And so we're able to analyze things. You can go back and look and analyze and say, try to pinpoint something in your history, a time, your timeline, whatever it is. And that's just, I don't know. That's where it starts for me, I guess. I guess maybe I want a definite answer. And maybe that's what I'm looking for, and that's how I rationalize it. So, I don't know. What do you think, brother?
An answer to what?
Yeah, he walked out when the question was something like, do you think Dad being in World War II contributed to, and men don't share their feelings and stuff back in those days, contributed to him and his
No,
alcoholism.
it was his early years.
Earlier than that?
Yeah, like his stepmom and him didn't get along.
Right.
I don't know if it's him just BSing, but he'd tell me about all the stuff she did, and I guess she was kind of mean to him. And his dad wasn't the
Didn't
warm and
support
fuzzy
him.
guy.
Right.
Warm and fuzzy guy.
Right.
He got along really good with his mom, and he was the baby of the family. So
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So by that time, they were, over having kids, but they had the youngest, and sometimes when your youngest siblings are the ones that
Yeah, that's okay. You can sit back.
they are the ones that they let just like they're tired. The parents are tired.
And
They
then
just
okay.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because he went into the military. Didn't he go in a year young?
yeah.
Yes, he lied about his age, and I was
Right.
going to kind of get into that a little bit too. Earlier I had said that I kind of labeled Dad as the father of our country, and I wanted to explain to the audience that we have an older brother and we have an older sister who is much older than our older brother. Our older brother Bob is, let's see, Jim, you're going to be 68 next month, and Bob is about 71, 72.
No, I think he's older than that.
You think older than that? Okay.
Yeah, I think he's at
Okay.
least 6 years older than I am.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like 3 or 4. All right.
Yeah.
So we have older Bob. Do you remember Bob, Chuck?
I remember going over there on what I think was a Super Bowl Sunday.
It was.
Yep.
It was
Yep.
Super Bowl Sunday. Yes. That was
Yeah.
the first time we met him.
And
Yes.
Annie, his wife Annie, son Brian, and they had another son too. So
Which were closer to your age. They were younger than me.
Yeah.
But we have an older sister, and she would be, if she's still alive, and I think she is, isn't she?
I don't know.
She-
Not too many people know about her.
Right. But she would be about 84 years old, right in that area.
So Dad was 16 years old.
So I would put her about 84, 83, 84. I'm not even sure if you're aware of this, Chuck, because that was kind of really how the story goes that Dad knocked up a girl at about 16 years old, and to get out of it, to get away from it, he ran off and joined the Navy.
Yeah. That's totally believable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's the legend.
Yeah. Well,
so-
they never did 23andMe or Ancestry.com because I never got no hits saying I got a half a brother or half a sister out there. So they never did that.
So
right.
Yeah. They probably, like Bob, he didn't even know that his father that raised him was not his biological father until 1974 or 5 when his mom told him, and then he found Dad, and then we didn't see him again until 77 or end of 77. No. I forget when it was. It was somewhere around there. I just remember I was working out at the pumps, and this guy pulled up, and I looked at him. I'm going, I don't know. I just felt weird. We looked a lot alike. He looked like Dad, whatever. And then Dad says, Jim, come in here. I want you to meet somebody. And he goes, this is your brother, Bob. And I was like, oh, okay. So he does look a lot like the Maynards. He looks like I think he looks more like Uncle Jim, but he's still got the Maynard eyes, high cheekbones, big hands. So yeah, and then we went to see him. I think I was out on Christmas break or something from college.
Right.
Yeah.
They were living in Irvine. I remember
Yes,
that.
yeah.
And we went on Super Bowl Sunday. And I remember that because the Raiders beat the Vikings.
Vikings. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember Raiders.
I
and
remember
Vikings.
that very well. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he lives in San Dimas.
Right. And I was going to mention that. Jim tells me he lives in San Dimas, probably retired now, but has his own construction company that I believe his boys are running.
Right.
And
The last I heard.
and Jim has reached out to him because Jim has his number, I don't, and he probably wouldn't even remember me if I tried to get in hold of him. But I've told Jim, and Jim has a couple of times tried to get in touch with him. I said, call him. Let's go meet up somewhere. Let's go see him. And Bob kind of seems as though he really doesn't want to have much to do with us.
I think he's just happy with what he has.
Probably is. And I don't want anything from him other than to say, hey, brother, I'm your brother.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't see it that way.
Yeah, maybe he obviously doesn't. I get it why people don't want to do that. I understand.
Yeah. But I've talked to his son. Yeah, it's just whatever. That's okay. I'm all right with it. So.
His last name is Maynard, right? Bob Maynard.
No, Cogley. That's so. What happened was Dad and Bob's mom. I don't think they were married, and Bob was born, and then this is what he told me. They wanted to go live. She wanted to go live with her parents. And he said, no way. And he just ended up bailing, I guess.
And so he took her name.
She got remarried. And
okay.
Yeah. And the fella that she married raised Bob as his own, and bless his heart. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He's probably better for it than,
Yes.
That worked out.
He probably didn't have to live through all the crap that we had to live through growing up. That's for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the story there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're stronger for it though, right?
Yeah. I knew about the older sister only because I think one of you revealed it to me a while back. I think it was you. Yeah. It was maybe a few years ago, but it was recent. Until then, I had no idea.
There's nobody, I think, even on. I was pretty much a well kept secret.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not a lot of people knew.
Oh, so everybody was
my mom, and she knew about her.
Okay.
Yeah, Dad fessed up, and she knew about Bob also, but she never said anything to me.
Oh, okay.
So,
I'm surprised Bob could find Dad. I mean, I don't know how long it took him to find him, but it's just it wasn't like that back in those days. It was a little more difficult to find people. I know it was small. It was still California.
I don't know if Bob's wife found Dad or whatever. I just know it was during the time when he had B&D Auto Electric over there in Norwalk. Yeah. It was right after I got out of high school. But I never met him then. Dad just came home and he was like all hammered and he said, "I guess who I met today?" And I go, "Who?" He goes, "Your older brother." And I'm like, "What?" And then he just like, okay, whatever.
First of all, we're not going to talk about B&D Auto Electric because there's stories there that we can't.
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm not sure that we want to reveal those.
No, we're not going to.
We've already revealed Dad was, the father of our country, and he was quite the coxman.
Do you remember the GTO that he got me?
Yes, of course I remember that car. I remember you and I think it was Renee. You guys were working on it out in front of the shop. You guys were doing a lot of fiberglass work on the hood and on the fender wells.
That was me.
Type of stuff.
That was me.
I thought Renee was there with you.
No, Renee wasn't too much of a car guy.
Okay.
But I did. I put the hood scoop on it, and then I paid somebody to do the blah, blah, blah. And then when we got over to in the West Covina house, that's when I took you guys out for a joyride. Yeah. And what happened?
The cop, I'll never forget. You were burning rubber in the neighborhood there, and We went into a parking lot. He pulled you over. We went into a
Sure,
parking
for
lot
sure.
there. He didn't see you. And I don't think he ticketed you because he said, I didn't see you. He said, but lift the hood up. You lifted the hood up. He took a look. You put the hood down, and he let you go, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
Wow. You know what? Everyone says, actually, you know who it was? It was Calvota who told me one time that I am the keeper of our memories, our childhood memories.
Yeah.
I don't recall that one. That's good on you, Chuck.
You don't recall that?
I don't
Wow.
recall that one. I think I slightly just remember ever so slightly getting pulled over, but you remember some good details on it.
Yeah. I remember
Good on
because
you.
it was funny because you played it really cool, Jim, and you were like, oh, yeah, sure, of course. No, that wasn't me. I was just, out here. And then he said, lift the hood. You lifted the hood. And you, I don't know what it is, but I remember you saying when you got back in the car, man, if that guy knew anything, he would have saw this because there was some illegal stuff going on under the hood there. And and then so yeah.
Oh, that's not the only time. With my Z28, I used to take that out to Irwindale Raceway, and I would race. And to do it, I would take the exhaust, not just uncork the headers, but take the exhaust off. So I had open headers, drive all the way out there, and then drive back. And I was heading south on the 605, and I don't know if I let off a little bit and it did that, and it's like it got kind of loud.
Oh.
And there was a cop up on the overpass, and I'm like, I see him in my rearview mirror coming down, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna pull me over. And so I pulled over, and he goes, "What you got? Got a little car's a little loud there. Got a hole in your muffler?" And he gets down, and he looks underneath. Oh, no mufflers at all. And I'm like, oh shit. I go, dude, I work in the shop right off the 605 in Beverly. I'm heading there right now to put them back on, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, he let me go. He goes, you just better be quiet. If I hear any of my friends down the road hear you doing anything stupid, they're going to be looking for you. So, I mean, I just like, boo. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's the car I dream about finding, my 69 Z28.
Yeah, that was that in your GTO. Those were just sweet cars.
Yeah.
I remember you selling that GTO, and then the guy
$500. The guy beat the shit out of it.
The guy wrecked it like 2 days later, and then came back and wanted his money back.
Shit,
please.
Shit. He couldn't handle it. It
was too much car for him, right?
Yeah, I used to take that thing out on and street racing over in Bandini.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, Chuck and I really didn't have
car stories.
We don't really have any car stories, but we didn't really have any run-ins with the law either. We were always able to skirt the law. Am I right?
Yeah. Kind of. Okay, so hold on. That's not necessarily true.
There's a problem, and I'm waiting for the story.
Okay.
Do you remember over at Pioneer High School, we were playing baseball and they locked the gate on us?
Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right.
So we were over. So Jim, we were over at Pioneer High School in Whittier or whatever, South Whittier, wherever it is, whatever.
Just Chuck and I.
And we were playing ball there, and Ben was driving the Mustang, Mom's Mustang, I believe.
Yep.
And so we didn't pay attention, and they closed the gate. Well, there was no way to get the car out of the parking lot. So we would either had to walk home or leave the car there overnight. We weren't about to do that. So we had a friend, Robbie Brew, who lived around the corner. We said, we could get a hacksaw from him and come here and cut through this. Well, no, you're not going to cut through that thick of steel with a hacksaw in any amount of time.
It was like a heavy duty. You weren't taking a hacksaw to this thing. We wouldn't even scratch it.
A chain?
No, the think about cutting the
lock. Oh yeah, that's hard.
I don't think about cutting the lock off. But anyways, so one of the neighbors called the police. They showed up, and Ben, I think, was the one who was sawing at the time. So they put him in the car and took him away, and me and Robbie Rue went back to the house, and Mom, they took Ben, or I don't remember, but I don't remember what they did with you. But yeah, you went to the police station. People or
No,
sheriffs, I think.
they cuffed me. I think it was more to scare me than anything, and put me in the back of the car. And I was was I a little scared? Maybe. I mean, I'm 17 years old, and I mean, we were mischievous kids, but we weren't out, wreaking havoc and breaking the law and that kind of stuff. So I'm a little bit nervous. And they put me in the back seat of the car, and they were driving around like they were going to go to the back to the station. And then they got a radio call. They actually took me onto the radio call with them. I think it was a disturbance or something along those lines, and pulled up, talked to the group of people. It was some young girls as well, and got me out of the car, and then told the girls I was in trouble. And then they actually took the cuffs off, and the deputy said, "Hey, I'm going to take these cuffs off of you, all right? But if you run, I'm going to shoot you." And so, "I'm not going anywhere, officer. I'm not going anywhere." So they took the cuffs off, and they sat me back in the car. We did end up going back to the station, and they put me in a holding cell. It was basically like a chain link cage, and called mom, and mom came to pick me up, and that was it. That was the end of it. Oh, I remember on the way out, I said, "Well, how am I going to get my car?" And they said, "Well, go back tomorrow and get it." So that was it. Yeah, they didn't legally, I guess, arrest me. They were just putting the scare into me.
They can hold you for 24 hours.
Oh yeah, no, I think I was in that holding cell for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and that was about it. Mom came pick me up, and she's just shaking her head the whole time. I mean, we weren't doing anything malicious, but they could say, "Well, you guys were vandalizing this place," So that's kind of what they were saying. "Oh no, this is vandalism right here." So and I think, like I said, they were just trying to put the scare into me, but that was nothing compared to a lot of the other stuff we used to do and all the mischief we used to get into when we were kids.
We're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that. We can't talk about one. No, the best of all. Come on, we have to at least talk about the best, the best story based on the best weekend activity we would partake in on a Friday night or a Saturday night. Come on. The purse.
It has to be the guy in the truck coming down Hadley.
Yeah. Oh, of course, the purse trick.
Yeah, so, that one's okay. I'm okay with that one.
All right. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I'll start and finish with that one. How's that? Does that work for you?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. See, I think both Jim and Chuck, they're worried that maybe statute of limitations hasn't run out on some of the stuff that we've been in, so that's why we're leaving a lot of that out. but this one is great, and so we used to call it the purse trick. And we would get $1 and go up to the Goodwill store, and we would buy a purse. And we would take that purse home. It would generally, most of the time, it was Chuck and I and John Fuller. It was mostly just the three of us.
Yep.
John Fuller lived across the street from us when we lived on Hadley. And we would take this purse, and we would tie fishing string to it, and we would throw it out in the street, and people would see the purse, and most of the time they either stopped right in the road or they would pull over. But when they would get out to pick up the purse, we would pull the string, and then they would, jump up because they got a little, I don't want to say spooked, but they would see this purse, and then they would jump up, and then we'd get out and jump out from behind the bushes and laugh at them. And so most everybody was pretty good sports, but there's some people who don't like to get bested by 12-year-olds, So one night we took our purse out and we threw it out. It was the intersection in front of the bowling alley in front of Hadley Lane.
Oh, Jesus.
Our little neighborhood bowling alley,
It was well lit. We wanted it in a well lit area, and there were some lights there.
There was the street lights.
Yeah.
So the street was pretty well lit, but there was a corner house that had big juniper bushes came right to the sidewalk. So it made great cover for us. And we throw the purse out in the street, and we're waiting. And you know, those step vans like the UPS trucks.
Mhm.
Well, it's a distinct sound that they would make, and there's this step van is coming down the street. I remember it was the Postal Service, though it wasn't UPS, but same step van coming down the road, and all of a sudden you hear this guy lock up the brakes, and he does a power slide right in the middle of the street. Does a power slide. Now his van is sideways in the road, and he jumps out the step van, and he says, "What did he do, Chuck?"
He steps out and he goes, "Yahoo!"
Yeah.
Yep.
He runs
He
out.
he was excited.
Excited. And he runs out to get the purse, and he bends down to pick it up, and we pull that string, and he jumps up, and we jump out laughing and pointing at him. He's like, and this was the best part. He's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys got me so good. That is such a great trick right there. You guys really got me." And he jumps in his van, takes off. That was it. That was
Yep.
awesome. It was awesome.
I remember the inside feeling when he gets out and yells, "Yeehaw!" The inside feeling is, I don't want to disappoint this guy. I want to give him the purse because he was so excited. It's like, let him have the purse. But then I think probably John had the fishing string, and he just starts pulling it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Oh, but that's that's one of the best. That is absolutely one of the best right there.
I got to be honest though, that to me, I remember that being the first time we did the purse trick though. Am I wrong? Because I don't remember doing it before then. And I remember always chasing that reaction and that feeling that we had with that guy. And a couple times it got okay, but not like that. That was the ultimate reaction to what we were doing.
I don't recall if that was the first time, but I can see where you're talking about. We're chasing that exhilarating feeling, We're going after that adrenaline high,
Yeah. But that was great. That was so much fun.
But we in a very mischievous way, we terrorized our neighborhood. Am I right?
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to. Yeah, there's things I don't want to talk about.
Okay, so I have a question. How old were you when you had pigeons?
Oh gosh.
Okay, so we were living in Hadley then, obviously, because when the raccoon got them.
I'll go into that.
Okay, so I would have been, I think, 12.
Yeah. Not 12.
Yeah. I'll never forget getting up one morning, going outside, looking at the pigeon coop, which is big.
Yeah,
it was just there was no place for them to really go. It was just had chicken wire all around it, and I call it the pigeon mealy massacre.
Oh
yeah,
that raccoon went in. There was only one bird left up at the top, hanging from the top.
One bird got out, was up on the power lines looking down,
and that raccoon took a bite out of every goddamn bird, and I'm going to say you had 20 birds.
There was a lot. It was somewhere between 10 and 20, probably right in the between there.
It was a lot, and it was a mess.
Time out. This is so professional. I'm taking a break. I'll be right back.
Okay.
So
you guys talk amongst yourselves.
So that was one of the things that I remember about the house over there on Hadley was the pigeon mealy massacre. So you don't know what mealy is, right?
No, help me out.
Mealy was a thing that happened in Vietnam. Yeah, so it became really big, and I don't know why I said that, but yeah, it's
that was the village. Didn't we go into a village, like some U.S. people went into a village there, and
So
I'll be honest, I'll never forget that, because I remember I didn't have those birds for very long. I remember George Grayson had got me a couple birds, and then I got a couple more, and even trapped a couple in a parking lot and threw them in there with him. And that was that was a little bit devastating because I really enjoyed doing that. I probably didn't take good care of them. To be honest, I didn't know. I
Yeah,
only
you
knew
know
what
that
George
one that
put
one
me.
parakeet that you had in your bedroom. Remember that?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
died of cancer. His foot fell
no,
off. Died
no,
of cancer.
the band, the band was so tight on its foot, it cut the circulation off to its foot, and he just foot fell off.
No, like I can't.
Well, I don't remember that,
I
but
remember
I
that.
do remember. I remember his foot falling off. I remember that.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, he lived for that peg leg for a while.
I'm coming back.
Yeah, I do remember that. But I didn't feed him because there was always stuff in the food dish. I didn't realize those empty shells I had to empty out and put more food in there on a daily basis. So, I wasn't very good with pets when we were young. We weren't really, I guess, taught how to take care of a pet. We had pets. We were allowed to have certain pets, but we just needed to take care of them. The time we had puppies, the lady down the street felt so sad for him that she had to bring food come in through our backyard on Hadley and feed the puppies because we probably weren't doing it.
She gave him cake.
Was it cake?
Chocolate cake.
Cake. At least one time she did. One time.
Oh my
did.
gosh! Yeah, it was.
But ooh.
Yeah.
that pigeon caper. Oh my gosh, that was like a murder scene out of a movie.
It was gross. I remember finding out.
brutal.
Didn't you, Ben, come up to Hadley Lanes and tell me? Because I was at Hadley Lanes playing a pinball machine, and you said you got to come home. All your birds are dead.
Oh wow!
And I didn't believe you. I said no way. And then you said no, yeah, really, yes, they are. And so then I left when we went down there. And so yeah, you came and get me. I'm pretty sure it was at Hadley Lanes. I never went out there in the morning to look, or I would have seen it. I just went directly up to Hadley Lanes.
Yeah, I had to go to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, something else. But yeah, no, this is good stuff, and I've enjoyed having this conversation with you guys. This is great, and
there's plenty more.
There's enough for a part 2. There's enough for a part 3, but I just don't know if legally we could.
I'll let you tell the one story that you love telling that mocks me.
Okay.
What is it?
All right. You know what's coming now, Chuck, right?
I do know what's coming.
Here we go.
It happened on Hadley, right?
It did happen on. Oh, come on! So much stuff happened on Hadley. That was
All
that was where the good stuff was, because that was our formative years.
Yeah, it goes to show what kind of kids we were. We didn't know what else to do.
You shit.
So Chuck and I are upstairs, and now this was after Mom and Dad had split up. But we were down. We would stay all the time on the weekend or whatever. And now Jim was living with Dad, and he took over our old bedroom, and you and I went into the other bedroom upstairs. And I remember we were hanging out in the bedroom, you and I, and Jim comes home late one night, and he's got a girl with him. And he comes and brings her up the stairs. It's a 2-story house, folks. And the stairs come up, and there's a landing, and then they turn and go back up. So there's a hairpin turn or a switch back in those stairs before you get up to the loft area at the top of the stairs. And so Jim's coming up the stairs. He's bringing this girl, and she's wearing her high heels. And so he introduces us. Yeah, these are my brothers, blah, blah, blah. This is so-and-so. Well, they go into the bedroom. And, well, they closed the door, so you can imagine what was going on.
You guys had no idea, right?
Well, I won't say
really didn't.
I won't say we were clueless, okay? But I'll say this too: it seemed, as from my memory, that you guys kept the noise down. So I don't remember what the timeline was. Needless to say, Jim and his girl are done. And they are now leaving. They come out of the bedroom, and they start heading down the stairs. And Jim, being not very gentlemanlike at this point in his life, should have been walking in front of her, but was walking behind her going down the stairs. Well, She heads down the stairs, and then she tries to negotiate the turn to continue going downstairs, and didn't do a very good job of it because she fell straight on her butt and slid the entire way down the stairs into our foyer. Yes, boom, 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 boom. And Chuck and I, being the punks that we are, started busting up laughing immediately, and we couldn't hold it in. We had to run into our bedroom and bury our heads in the pillows, and that still didn't keep the noise down from our laughter. Oh, and to this day, it's the one story that Jim hates to hear, but he knows it's coming at one point or another.
I gotta ask a question. How were we there to see that? We saw them go up the stairs. We were there to see her fall down the stairs. Why were we not in our bedroom tucked away doing something?
We were hanging out in the bedroom, and then so as they got ready to leave, Jim might have said, "Hey, we're taking off," or whatever it was, but we came out of the bedroom.
You came out of the bedroom and you were like snickering, like, ha ha ha, you were doing something wrong or some shit like that. And that's when I stopped. And I was like, and I gave you the fist. Like, shut the fuck up. And then you're like, and Chuck got real brave and was chiming in with you, and then shit happened, and you guys were like all over it.
And somebody went, not quite head over heels, but right on her butt, slid right all. I mean, if the front door had been open, she would have slid out the front door.
She was so embarrassed.
But we had a good time with that one, didn't we, Chuck?
Oh, that lasted. Well, obviously that story's 40 years old, 45 years old. I mean,
probably closer to 45. Probably closer to 45 years old.
Yeah, I could still remember. That happening. Not like it was yesterday, but I'll never forget that.
Just literally just running back in your rooms and.
That's exactly right.
And
that is exactly right.
Little shit ass chuckles and oh God, that was so embarrassing.
I'm sorry for the pain we caused you, Jim. I really am.
That's all right. That's okay.
See, we didn't just terrorize the neighborhood. We terrorized our own brother.
Oh my God. We could go on and on.
We could, but look, this has been great. And I know there's another part 2 or 3 coming at some point, but this has been great. And a lot of fun for me, introducing you guys to my audience and just letting them hear us, go back and forth and just share about ourselves. And that's the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is tell your story. And we've been able to do a little bit of that tonight. And I can't thank you guys enough for it.
You know what? You're welcome. You know what's coming up, Chuck? Oh, that's not bad. You know what's coming
up, Chuck?
We have a tasting.
We do. Let's not reveal that too much.
Cut that out.
No. No, Catherine did post something on my Instagram page. So there is a little bit of a teaser for one of the shows coming up next week. Actually, she did give the details. We are doing a stout tasting next week.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Right on the program. And
I have one you need to test. Guinness makes you're talking about like stout beer, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Guinness now makes a 0.0. You should have that as part of your show.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to get into it too much, but the stouts that we're talking about, they're all microbrewery stouts. And these Guinness is not even close to a stout when I'm talking about stouts. These are like drinking molasses.
They're about on the average 16 ABV, which is 32 proof.
Yeah. Right. Okay. But so we're not going to be drinking to get drunk. We're just tasting, and me, I don't drink to get drunk anyway. So, but it's something we're doing next week. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that one. Jim will be back. So folks at home who are watching this, you'll get to see him again next week. And for those listening, you'll get to hear him. But
when I'm well oiled,
let's hope you don't get too oiled.
I'm gonna bring my Guinness 0 to the party.
Oh shit!
Okay, you're gonna fly out here for that?
No,
Please
I'm
do.
not.
Please
I'll
do.
be in Alamo.
We'll have a warm chair for you. How's that?
Yeah. You know what I will do next time I'm out that way? I'll let you know. Maybe we could hook up.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
got it because I got to be going to Thousand Oaks probably early next year.
Okay.
So it's in the area.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Yeah. But again, guys, thanks. I greatly appreciate it. This was just a ton of fun. Thanks for taking time, Chuck.
I was kind of wondering how this would play out, but I'm really glad and excited. I'm happy. It's really great to talk to both of you and see us all like together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this is a good stuff. And this isn't about it wasn't going to be about, who can shame the other one more or anything like that, or, bring the skeletons out of the closet. What'd you come up with?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
I'm a picture that you hate.
Oh gosh, yeah, picture that I hate.
Well, you got to bring it next time.
You hate it too, so we don't have a picture. So next
I
time
have it.
you may have to
I
bring
have it.
you may have to bring the picture, Jim.
Is this the graduation one?
No.
No.
This is you sitting on his lap.
Yeah.
Oh, the Santa Claus one.
No, Santa Claus, nothing.
No.
Okay, gosh, we're trying to end the show here. Mom hired a photographer. She came out to the house, and I was about 4, so you were like a year and a half.
Yeah, I remember.
And yeah, you're sitting on my lap, and then you got
No,
all right. I won't spoil it for everybody at home.
It's one of those. It would be classic for those things you see on the internet now, the like uncomfortable family pictures and things like that.
Oh,
it would be a good one.
Oh yeah. I get you. Well, I don't care. I'm not above embarrassing myself, so it's okay with me.
It's a daily occurrence.
Jim, you have my permission to do whatever you want to do with that picture.
Yeah. All right, folks. Listen, that's going to be a wrap tonight. Thanks for being here again. Once again, the program is available on multiple podcast platforms: Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just do a search on the Ben Maynard program, and you'll have several options. Choose your option. I want to lean you towards the Buzzsprout option. So if you could, that'd be great. And if you're watching right here on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I love reading the comments. I don't get enough of those. Last but not least, follow me on Instagram, simply Ben Maynard Program. That is going to be a wrap. Thanks again. This is the Ben Maynard Program. Tell a friend.
Love you guys.